Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is Thursday, April 8th, 2021. So looking at the bigger picture, right, after last Thursday's close higher, we've continued up higher this week. So as we sit here messing around the highs, we've taken out the high for these 3 days in the overnight session, right? Uh, the high for the bells is 4,076. We're currently trading 4,082 basically, and we've been as high as 4,092.75. So that's either going to hold now, right? We're either going to hold this consolidation, and look how narrow this consolidation is. Look how narrow this node is. Basically, getting back below 4,055, 4,056, right? There's nothing. All this should turn into overhead supply, and then we'll see how big of a retracement we can get. But until we start cracking under the 4,075, 4,076, which is only a few points below us, you can't assume that that's going to be the way the pattern plays out. So I said pop and flop, which would be back into yesterday's range. And to be honest with you, I think if it goes back into the 2-day range that we've had so far, we end up losing and testing lower. Or a pop and hold, right? Or we can hold basically the, let's just call it 4,070 area of the charts. So we beat up the ES. Let's look at the Russell, who is the weakest link, right? What I was looking for yesterday was it to come back down into 2215 to 2230.7 and really playing off of that at the top of the end of range between 31 and 25. So it pierced down there. It barely got below this 2215, back up above 31 here in the overnight. We'll see if that can hold, but there's still going to be some overhead supply starting at 44 and heading up towards 51. Looking at the NASDAQ, it is getting closer to that all-time high mark of 13,900. Basically less than 200 points away from it at this point in time. And this 13,730 is the last real resistance stopping point that I have between that and the all-time high. So we'll see what it can do. Pullbacks should be buyable in the NASDAQ all the way down to 13,625. You get under 13,625 and you just go back in that previous range, right back in the murk and the mud. Looking at the Dow, you can see the NASDAQ is the one driving the ES, right? So the NASDAQ's popping above that 3-day bounce. So is the ES because of the NASDAQ. The Russell is still below, right, the last couple days. The Dow is just in line over here. So as we look at the Dow, right, the Dow could come back into anything, and I still think 33,115 would be ideal for the Dow, somewhere in there as a turning point. If we get down there today, I don't think it's a good buy today. It'll be a better buy tomorrow. So depending on how the day shakes out, it's either going to be just a chop fest, right, of back and forth, which we've had the last 2 days. It's going to be the pop and hold basically. I don't think it's going to be a pop and go. That is on the table. I think it's the least likely of scenarios, but you have to be aware. So if you're trying to short up here, do so with risk controls for sure. So look at, now that we beat up the bigger picture, Tesla still had messing around. It's still flagging in this halfway back short, right? Ever since it hit 900, come back down to 540 basically. It's been holding under 720, and then it's just flagging. So this still targets down to like 455 down here. So I wouldn't get too enamored for Tesla. If you're in Tesla, I think I would be dumping it. And then you can always get back in at a little bit of a higher price or after it proves itself. But right now, it looks like this bearish draw is going to end up winning for Tesla. Looking at the overnight action, 20.25 points. If you look at where the level 4As are, 4039.5 to 4100.5 is what we have. And then, just sitting here, we had some salmon run prints go off yesterday after the bell. All that means is we had some prices paid above the bell high of the day before futures close. So I marked that zone out, and you can see the overnight low was just barely under the bottom side of that box, and it's been responding up. So that's going to be your first marker in the sand for the ES. Looking at all the indexes, and what we have here is end value and end value for the the Russell and the Dow. And like I said, the NASDAQ is dragging the ES up. If you look at from the highs, though, you've got a downtrend pattern basically from 1:30 a.m. for the Dow and the ES. So the Dow is dragging the ES down, just like the NASDAQ is dragging the ES up. So the ES is going to be trapped in the middle of those two for now. So if you want to play stuff, and the Russell's been so beaten down, it did come into that support level. So as long as yesterday's low holds, I wouldn't get too froggy about trying to short the Russell. Maybe the Dow will be the better one to try to short today. We'll see if that ends up playing out, but it is definitely the weakest market in the overnight based on coming off that high. And you can see there's just been sellers ever since. You can see in the ES, you've got that same sell pattern, but not to the same extent. And the Russell just flat. I'll send out the overnight value areas. We'll go from there. And I'm not going to be too eager to take a position. And a public service announcement, remember, Jerome Powell is on the mic sometime around noon on CNBC for some bullshit interview. So that's going to probably move the markets around then. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.